Why has the United States had by far more COVID-19 deaths than any other country on the planet? In a word, dysfunction. The dysfunction caused by neoliberalism. When your society is so obsessively built around perpetuating profits for the bourgeoisie that your country is the only industrialized country without even a semblance of a universal healthcare program, much of your impoverished population is not going to have anywhere to turn during a crisis like COVID-19. And when your country is so far behind compared to many of the other wealthiest countries when it comes to elder care, when it comes to paid maternity leave, when it comes to social welfare, like being able to get desperate people food, when it comes to education, when it comes to all of these basic facets of society, then much of your population is going to find themselves extremely vulnerable during a time like this. Much of your population is going to have to continue to participate in business as usual in order to simply survive, which would not have to be the case under circumstances where the social welfare system is far stronger, where workers have more protections, where there's more consideration for the well-being of poor and working people. Think of China and Vietnam, where the police last year have actually been sent in to buy and deliver groceries for the people who've been quarantined. Meanwhile, well, you know what the police have been doing to the American people throughout this last year. This is the contrast that is so outrageous. In workers' democracies like China and Vietnam, uh, society is set up around the consideration of what benefits the masses, of what is most pragmatic and scientific in addressing crises like COVID-19. It's why the United States has had over 500,000 deaths, whereas China has had, I think, around 5,000 COVID deaths so far. And it's why Vietnam, the DPRK, Cuba, and Laos have similarly been able to beat COVID-19 quite well. Actually, the DPRK, from what I understand, has had zero contact with the virus, though that's attributable probably to the DPRK's unique status of being able to isolate itself. But anyway, my point is that neoliberalism, especially the type of extreme, zealous neoliberalism that the U.S. ruling class has embraced, naturally incentivizes the capitalist class to physically sacrifice the poor and working people during times of crisis like this. And the capitalist class has been deliberately subjecting workers and poor people to being at risk, greater risk of dying from this virus, from getting sick and perhaps permanently crippled, simply to keep up profits. This is the situation that we're in. This is how the system has killed over 500,000 people in this country. And when I say that neoliberalism is to blame, I mean not just neoliberalism, but the material factors that have produced the type of rampant neoliberalism we experience in the United States. The capitalist class has been incentivized to implement and perpetuate neoliberalism because throughout this last century, the declining rate of profit and the other crises of capitalism as of late have necessitated the bourgeoisie to foist the costs of capitalism crises onto the lower classes and redistribute wealth upwards towards them through things like austerity, regressive taxes, dismantling of workers' rights, privatization, and so on. And the United States has embraced neoliberalism to this incredibly obscene extent as compared to many of the other wealthiest countries, even to the other imperialist countries, because the United States has positioned itself as the center perpetrator of imperialist violence. The U.S. military's globally unparalleled budget has given the ruling class an excuse to drastically drive down the living standards of the population and to impose this incredible, obscene austerity onto the masses and to put us in this incredibly vulnerable place. Until we can move towards the same point of workers' democracy that places like China and Vietnam are in, until we can abolish U.S. imperialism, which means abolishing the U.S. government, and establish a post-colonial socialist society, we're going to continue to be subjected to the kinds of horrors we've experienced this last year.